4 years ago, this event cost about $10,000 to hold here at the Capitol, and to have all the people that were here.
Oh,
and the
that's right. Yeah, I remember
banners
that. Yes.
And it was, it was a nice event. Several hundred people, a lot of enthusiasm. But this, so live and learn. I do it on Cavuto. I think it will get as much or maybe more attention, and it didn't cost a penny.
That's sort of your MO.
Yes,
keeping things as inexpensive as possible.
Well, and so this go and last year, or excuse me, 4 years ago, when I announced as a libertarian, I was a bloodied soul. I really was. I'd been beating my head up against the wall for years prior to announcing as a libertarian, and right now, I'm totally in one piece. The difference being is I am not repeating what ended up to be an ineffective run last time. I mean, in retrospect, 90% of the time I spent running for president last time ended up to be wasted time. Well, I am not doing any of the 90% expecting different results. So I'm fresh. I'm probably the dullest from a sharp political standpoint that I'm going to be over the next 10 months. But you're going to get the dull presentation here. It'll get sharper and sharper as it goes forward.
So why run again?
Well, at the end of the day, on my deathbed, I will have been the voice of reason in all this, and I will die believing that. And there is a possibility that I could be in the president, that I can be, or the Libertarian nominee can be in the presidential debates, our presidential debate lawsuit. I mean, it's a big deal. Whether or not it's successful or not will remain to be seen, but Bruce Fein filed that lawsuit. Bruce Fein's biggest claim to fame is that he brought Nixon down in Watergate. And he is saying that this lawsuit is the biggest thing that he has ever done in his life, that this has the potential of changing politics in America. It does. We'll see if it's successful. We're suing on antitrust legislation, but that possibility exists. You couple that with the fact that Hillary looks to be the nominee and Trump looks to be the nominee. Potentially, this is offering an alternative vote that garners enough attention to actually get in the debates, perhaps on its own.
You said you're not going to do 90% of the stuff you did last time.
Yes.
What specifically are you talking about in there?
Well, a couple of examples. One is that, and I realize now that I'm a declared candidate that this can't be the case, but that people pay for me to show up. Now right now I'm in a different set of rules going forward. The other thing is, 4 years ago, in that cycle in 2012, Steve, I'll bet I spent 3 months 24/7 on internet radio. And I got to tell you, I'm doing internet radio, and I'm doing internet radio, and I'm doing internet radio, and I'm thinking, this is a guy in his mid-40s in his underwear sitting in the basement, and the only audience is his parents on the next floor up. Well, internet radio, you know what? I spent 3 solid, when you add it all up, probably 3 solid months 24/7 on internet radio. Am I completely excluding internet radio? No, there are some very real exceptions, but that's 3 months right there, that when you convert that into days, that ends up to be 9 months of interviews that really didn't go anywhere. And again, I can go on and on and on, but that's the kind of example that's out there. People that would promise 5,000, you show up to this event, there are going to be 5,000 people at this event. Well, you show up to the event and there's, nothing like was promised. If they have to pay my expenses, which isn't very much, to show up to that event in which they're promising A, B, C, and D, it's amazing how A, B, C, and D turns out to be more like what they initially promised when they're paying for me to show up.
So your media plan will be going on on cable television, going on the air broadcasts like
another,
Cuvuto.
another example is going to New York. Very, 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 very time well spent. I go to New York for 3-4 days, and I'll end up making 8 national media appearances, as opposed to going to Iowa or New Hampshire and playing the radio, appearing on radio interviews or television interviews in those states. Another example of just being as efficient and effective as you can possibly be. Will that amount to more than the 1.3 million votes that I got last time? I think so. I think it will. Will it end up making a difference? Look, I was disappointed last time. I was really disappointed last time. This is not an effort to do better. I am reality based, but at the end of the day, where is the voice of reason? And I think I'm that voice of reason. I really do. I'm reality based. I'm honest. I admit mistakes. I'm open to hearing a better way all the time.
So you're seeing the possibility, the very real possibility, that Hillary Clinton gets the Democratic nomination, Trump gets the Republican nomination, and there's going to be this vast number of people who are going to be turned off by both, and that's where you fit in.
There's two sides to driving what might be me getting a lot of attention. One is the presidential debates. The other is just what you said. Just exactly what you said. The dissatisfaction that exists, the fact that I think the majority of Republicans do not agree with what Donald Trump has to say, and yet with plurality voting as it is, he could well be the nominee, and you would have a huge influx of support. Possibly. I mean, what you laid out is, in my opinion, a very real possibility.
Okay, so a lot more competition in libertarian field this time, right?
Not really. Something that also is really not understood. I mean, in 2012, I think there were 350 candidates filed with the Federal Elections Commission to run for president. It's about the same number today. There are 150 Democrats running for president today. There are 130 Republicans running for president today. 25 Libertarians running for president today, which is about the same as it was in 2012. So really.
Who seems the most serious competition there, McAfee or?
I don't. I mean, if that ends up to be, I can't imagine that will be the case. But I'll go out and make my case, and he can certainly make his case when he talks about the size of government and the blurb that I heard on the radio the other day with him talking about. Government and it's being on. There wasn't anything I could disagree with.
Okay, so let's say you're in an elevator with a potential voter, and they're not crazy about Hillary Clinton, they're not crazy about Donald Trump. Why should they vote for Gary Johnson?
Well, first of all, that was also 90% of the time that I wasted last time. You can't do it. You can't do it one voter at a time, and you shouldn't even try and engage it, or you'll just go crazy and die. That said, though, what do you say in front of the national media? Well, I think the majority of Americans are fiscally conservative and socially liberal. The definition of classic liberal. I'm a classic liberal. Is there a single Republican candidate that is a classic liberal? No. Is there a Democrat that's fiscally conservative? No. So just that alone, and of course, it's one thing to be philosophically in line with most of America. I mean, arguably that could be a homeless person. I'm not a homeless person. I do have a resume. I think I've had a very successful resume. I think I was very successful as governor of New Mexico. Using as an example, I mean, Susana Martinez. If Susana Martinez would have come out right away and I would have done this if I'd have been in this situation, but I haven't had a drink in 28 years, so I don't think I'm going to be in this situation. But if she would have just said, look, I had too many to drink, I shouldn't have gotten on the call, it was such a misjudgment on my part, that would have been the end of the story. As bad as that would have been, but now you still have questions that result from it. I mean, the questions just go on and on and on. I've been here for 2 hours. Nothing's happened in 2 hours. Nobody's asked the question. I don't want to go down the Susana Martinez, but that wasn't me. I mean, Steve was here. Steve was here, and whether you liked what I said or not, look, I think we put an end to those kinds of stories by admitting the mistakes that we did make right away. We just admitted to them.
Of course, the bugaboo for Libertarian or third-party candidates is that the people from the Republican side or the Democratic side are saying anyone who votes for a third-party candidate is throwing away their vote.
Right, but and I think I absolutely believe that was the case in 2012. If you have Hillary, if you have Trump, now I'm back to 1.3 million votes in 2012 and 1% of the vote, that maybe that phenomenon alone changes it by 500,000 votes. I don't know, 2 million votes. But that it's not, won't be as big a sentiment as it was in 2012. In 2012, I mean, I had all sorts of people that, gosh, I didn't want Obama to win, so I had to vote for Romney, even though I had to plug my nose, and vice versa. I don't know as that so much. I don't know as the majority of Republicans can really vote for Trump if he's the nominee. I don't know if Democrats can do the same with Hillary. I mean, come on, Hillary's going to change anything? Come on. No.
No. I think, like Rob is saying, that both sides are so good at demonizing the other. Like you say, hold your nose and vote for Hillary. Hold your nose and vote for Trump or whatever.
Right, and that has been the phenomenon, and that may well repeat. History may well repeat itself.
So when you made up your mind, I mean, was there something that spurred this? Was there an aha moment?
No, but I do go back to 2012, and I promised everybody that was involved in me, because I was asked this all the time, will you do this again if you are successful? And I said, yes, I will. I'll commit to doing that. Now, I'll be the last person that says that 2012 was successful. But those same people would and have been saying that 2012 was very successful. Mm-hmm. That 1.3 million votes is 1% of the vote is not something to poo-pah. That it's very real, and that it can grow from there. When you grow to really, it's got to be a 5% kind of a thing. But when you grow to 5%, all of a sudden now you've got to be because of the potential spoiler role that you would play. Now you've got to be included as part of the dialogue. That did not happen in 2012. It may not happen in 2016, but that's one of two opportunities. Mm-hmm. That or the presidential debate lawsuit.
This lawsuit, that was filed a long time ago, right?
Yes, and January 8th, as in 2 days from now, is the response. So Republicans...
From the commission?
From the commission, yes. The commission has to respond by January 8th. I presented with Bruce Fine in New York and Washington to raise money for this lawsuit. And the question that was always asked was, will this lawsuit be held or heard timely? And he said, absolutely. That's why it could well go before the Supreme Court.
So if the commission comes back on January 8th and says, no, you're still not invited, then you...
No, this is not about, this is, in this case, we are suing them on antitrust legislation.
Right.
They will be found, the judge has to come